Hello, this is Pastor Nick Hood. Today I'm in front of my ancestral home in Detroit. Most of the years in Detroit, I think from it would have been 59 or 60 to 69. This is where I lived. And today, Steve and I are in front of the home that we grew up in. And I just wanted to share some memories. This is in the Russellwood section of Detroit. And Steve, tell me what you remember about our house on Fullerton Street.
It was a cool house, except in the fall when I was in high school and I was a bad boy. I had to actually prune the marigolds. You see all along that line of bushes, my mother planted marigolds and I had to prune them. And she'd always pick the hottest day for me to prune the marigolds. But it was fun. I had to pick up the apples from the 2 apple trees. There was no fence there. It was just a great thing.
Yeah.
Great thing. That's what I remember about the house. A lot of times playing basketball in the back and all that.
What Steve and I are going to do for just a minute is just trade stories. So Steve says he had to prune marigolds. Did you have to plant them too?
Yes, I had to plant the marigolds.
He had to plant them and prune them. In my case, we joke, we say we had different parents. My mother wasn't planting marigolds when I came up. I didn't have to prune them. I did not have to plant them. But I had a lot of fun here, and the front yard was off limits. We couldn't play in the front yard. Could you play in the front yard?
Was not allowed to play in the front yard.
But if you look behind us, there are 2 trees, 2 pear trees, and
Actually, there's one. They took out one of them.
oh boy, there's only one, but when we were growing up, there were 2. And one of my fondest recollections was the last whipping I got started between the pear trees. Reverend Roger Miller and his wife, Gloria, he was a white minister my father decided to hire as an associate minister with a black wife. They came to Detroit and they were getting acclimated. So on July 4th, my parents had iced tea and lemonade. We were having a good time. And one of our friends, Akito Varner, came up to us, to me and Emery. He said, "You want to throw sparklers at Patrick Stewart's house?" Now, Patrick's house is 2 doors down from us. And so we threw sparklers at Patrick's house. But one of them, according to neighborhood folklore, went down the massive bosom of Patrick's mother. And Dr. Stewart stormed down the street, and I could see him coming. And he said, "Reverend Hood, what are you going to do? Reverend Hood, what are you going to do?" And so my father looked at me, he looked at Emery, he said, "Robin," that's what he called me. He said, "Emery," he said, "up the stairs." And I said, "Oh, golly." I knew what was happening. We were going to get whipped. So we walk up the stairs like dead men walking. And as we get to the top of the stairs, my father said, "Go to your bedroom." So we go to our bedroom. And then my father said, "Pull down your pants." And I said, "Oh, man." At this stage of my life, I had to pull down my pants. And he said, "Get on your beds." So Emery was on one twin bed. I was on the other. Our dad was in the middle. And he took off his belt and he whipped us like a team of rawhide oxen. And, Emery was getting big then, and I, was a little older than Emery. And at the end of the whipping, my father staggered back to his bedroom, and then Emery looked at me, and I looked at Emery, and Emery said, "Nick, I think we could have taken Dad tonight." I said, "Shut up." I said, "Don't even think about that." But I kept thinking about what Floyd Jones Jr. said. Floyd lived on Buena Vista, played in a band with me. Floyd said, "Never fight your father, never fight an old man." He says, "Because you don't know what he knows." But I don't know. Steve, you have any other stories from the house?
Well, the closest I got to a whooping in the house was when they used to sell these things called cigarette loads. My mother used to smoke, and there was another lady, Mrs. White, she would come over on Christmas Eve. So I said, it's time for some real fun. And my father watched me buy these cigarette loads. So I loaded up the cigarettes and I handed one to Miss White, and I creeped to the stairs going upstairs. Sure enough, she smoked, and then boom, her cigarette blew up. And Dad said, go up to your room. I didn't get whipping though, because he saw me buy it. He knew exactly what I was up to.
See, that's the big difference between Steve and me. I think you would have turned out differently had you gotten some whipping.
I think I turned out all right.
Oh, you've turned out marvelously.
I think I turned out all right. But the bigger difference was, didn't you used to walk to school?
Yeah, to Winterhalter.
Yes, I had the Roper bus pick me up right here. Mom would walk with me to the bus with the dog, with Aquarius, and I would go to Roper.
So Steve, you lived a charmed life, man.
Still living it.
Yeah, still living it. Well, folks, that's all I'm going to tell today, but I have a lot of memories from the house. Our father, did Dad ever give you a fire escape plan?
Yes, out the back window.
Yeah, we had the fire escape plan. He said if there's ever a fire in the house, don't go down the stairs.
Yeah, but the funniest moment was
Jump out the
watching
window.
Dad fall by the window.
One Saturday morning, we watched our father. He was making some kind of home repair. He fell down, and we were eating breakfast. And as our dad goes down, falling off the ladder, Emery and I and Steve, we're laughing, just uncontrollably. We say, hey, look at Dad. And Dad could have killed himself. But this was an amazing neighborhood. Let me tell you a little bit about the neighborhood. So you see the house where we live. It's the most eclectic block I can imagine. We had auto workers. I think the guy in the house to the left was an auto worker. We had one of the biggest numbers men in Detroit was on the end of the street.
And
Yeah.
a secret numbers man next to us.
We had a secret numbers man next to us who introduced me to Joe Louis. You think about that. I shook out my hand to Joe Louis. It's the biggest hand I've ever seen in my life. And all I could think of was, my God, what must it have been like to get hit by that hand? Dr. Natalia Tanner and Dr. Waldo Kane lived on the end of the block. Great pediatrician, great surgeon. We had other auto workers in the block. We had doctors in this block. In the neighborhood, you had Barry Gordy. You had Diana Ross, Mary Wilson, Florence Ballard of the Supremes. Dinah Washington was married to Dick Night Train Lane. They lived around the corner. We had Floyd Valentino, who was a trumpet player, Motown session trumpet player. He was the father of Floyd Jones Jr. He lived on Buena Vista. And so it was an absolutely amazing neighborhood. I don't know if you know this, Steve, but I was told by one of my Jewish friends that we think that the house that we lived in was the developer's house for this subdivision. It was a Jewish subdivision. And if you notice, it's the only house in the neighborhood that has a double lock. I had a lot of great memories here, but I guess we probably ought to leave it right here. Any closing thoughts you want to say about the house?
You've said it all.
All right, folks, thanks so much for watching us today. This is part of my neighborhood tour. Next week, I'm going to do a video from McCabe Field with some 70-year-old men who used to play on the West Side Cubs, and watch what you see. We'll probably be dressed in red and white because those are our colors. God bless, God keep you. Thank you for being with me and sharing these memories.